Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Parenteau, and I'd like to welcome you to Lifting Others as We Rise, the podcast where we dive into the world of real estate and the power of positive thinking. In each episode, we're going to bring you inspiring conversations with real estate professionals and other thought leaders who have really harnessed the power of lifting others up along their journeys. So let's get ready to elevate our mindset. Lifting Others as We Rise podcast, where inspiration is a catalyst for action. Let's go. Welcome to Lifting Others as We Rise podcast. I am your host, Lisa Parenteau, realtor, team leader, CRS, broker associate, but most importantly, grandma to my 4-year-old granddaughter, Eloise Ann, on beautiful Cape Cod here in Massachusetts. And I'm thrilled to welcome you today to this episode of the podcast. I know you're going to enjoy it as much as I am. So get comfy, settle in, whether you're at the gym, whether you're sitting with a cup of coffee, whether you're driving. My intention, as always, is for us to discover some inspiration, some catalysts for change in the stories of real estate leaders that we have connected with and identified across the country. And today, my very special guest is Mary Beth Kelley. Mary Beth comes to us, I'm so excited, comes to us from the Boston area. She has been a realtor. She's at least second generation realtor. I know her mom was a realtor. She is an expert in market trends, and we'll get into that a little bit why. Customer service. But she also caters to the very prestigious neighborhoods of Back Bay, Beacon Hill, and South End. And those inherently have a lot of age and age-related kinds of issues and concerns and joys and challenges, I'm quite sure. I know that you have a bachelor's degree in international relations and affairs, which is kind of an interesting and very important piece of potentially of being a really good realtor. You also you were in the fashion industry in New York City for over 20 years before becoming a realtor. So that is just such an amazing introduction. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And this is my first podcast as a realtor, so I'm excited to dive in and let's get into it.
Yeah. So we always end up talking about real estate. And of course, I want to talk about real estate, but I also really want to touch base on some things that drive us and motivate us, some mindset stuff, because I think that's what continues to both propel us into our success, but also equipped us with a lot of confidence as we navigate choppy waters in the market and choppy waters in our profession as we are facing right now. So I think sharing that inspiration, sharing some of the catalysts for change are hugely important. So let me get a little bit about real estate so we can talk a little bit about that. Can you recall a specific moment or event? I know you were in fashion. Talk a little bit about that kind of put you on your path for where you are today.
Well, it wasn't a path that I ever thought I would take. I mean, it's funny, you have a goal or an idea in mind of what you want to do. In college, I thought I'd be an attorney. And about my second year I was at Mount Holyoke, my undergrad, I decided I didn't want to be in school any longer than I had to. And I was really jazzed about living in the quote unquote real world. And I did move to New York City, literally 2 weeks. I was home for 2 weeks. I grew up in Weston, Connecticut, which is a little suburb north of New York. And I was like, I got to get out of here. So I ended up in the fashion industry. That's a whole other discussion, lots of synergy between fashion and real estate. But I lived in New York. My parents moved to Falmouth in 2011, 2012, and I was ready to get off the hamster wheel of New York City, working all the time, not doing other things besides working. I really had a wonderful career, but I think I gave up some personal things in my life, like having a family. Not things you plan, but that's the way it happens. And I really wanted to move to Boston because I wanted to be closer to my parents. And I really liked the idea of a smaller city. But before I landed there, I got a job offer from Primark, which it was their first flagship store, was in Eileen's Basement, downtown Crossing. Many people know that store itself, which is a fantastic store. And I had to move to Dublin, Ireland first, which was obviously sign me up. How quickly can I get there? And I enjoyed every minute of that.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have lived there for 5 years if I could have. It was so amazing just being able to travel all over Europe. On the weekends, I was always on a plane somewhere. But I moved to Boston with the intent I was heading up the U.S. women's merchandising team here and working with the buying team over in Ireland. Unfortunately, they didn't plan their businesses as they should have. They were basing a lot of their foot traffic and patterns after their most heavily trafficked stores in London and Dublin, and Boston just wasn't getting the sell-throughs that they had hoped. So they had to lay off some people. So about 5 executives got laid off with no warning. Myself was one of them. And everyone in New York was like, yay, you're coming back. And I was like, no, I am not coming back. I love Boston. I want to stay here. And this was a choice that put me into real estate. And I tell people I spent $100,000 becoming a real estate agent because I couldn't find a job even close to the salary I was making as an executive of 20 years. And I didn't want to leave. And you can't apply for, I was renting. I should have bought. That was another mistake when I moved here, but I was renting, and you can't find an apartment when you don't have a job. So I was literally hemorrhaging money, trying to figure it out. And my mother was like begging and pleading, and my cousin, who's an executive at Cushman and Wakefield, also in commercial real estate, go
Okay.
into real estate. And I didn't like realtors, Lisa. I thought they were pushy and smarmy, and you walk in the door at a new networking thing, and like, hi, how are you? Where do you live? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, please, just, so that was my first kind of impression of a real estate agent. And I had a horrible experience when I moved here. I mean, I was ready to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a 1 bedroom, and no one cared about me. So that I took away as something to do, just a way to set myself apart from other agents when someone is moving here and doesn't know the city, to spend the time. Even if they're renting, they will become a buyer. So that really, job loss forced me into the path of real estate. And it was very, very difficult when I first got into the industry. No one wants to do a deal with you when you've never done a
Brand new,
deal.
of course.
You
These are
know,
such big transactions, and it's very tough
absolutely.
in the beginning, especially if you don't have a team. What we try to do here, I try to do on my team is always, especially for someone new, lean on all of us. It's we, not
Right,
I. And
right.
hopefully you had that experience.
Absolutely. I did start with a smaller boutique firm, and it just wasn't a good fit because they expected you just, she hired me immediately because of my experience. And she said, everyone's going to think you've been doing this your entire life, because I was quote unquote seasoned and the way I present myself and carry myself. But I decided that I had to go into a bigger firm. So I joined KW, and I worked with this wonderful mentor who eventually became my partner. And he literally had me on his first phone call. I'll never forget it. And we were on with his clients talking about waiving a mortgage contingency. And I'm thinking to myself, what is he talking about? Had no clue. But you learn by doing, as you very well know. And within a year, I had figured it out. And my friends would then work with me because I was on a team, and he helped me land a lot of deals. And I brought some buyers and sellers of my own to the table. So if anyone's thinking about getting into real estate, I can't impart on you enough. Get on a team, because that's how you learn. You learn by doing.
Yeah, I love that. And, we'll talk a little bit about luxury and what that's about. I just got off of a webinar, EXP Luxury. We have the first Wednesday or second Wednesday of the month, we do a members only. And today was about buyer presentation. Of course,
Sure.
the timely topic that everyone is, and what does it look like a little bit different for a luxury buyer than for, a buyer in a different, and they do look different. What does the collateral look like? What we do is the same, but the
Oh,
presentations and some of the
absolutely.
considerations are a little bit different. But I think that team element that you mentioned is so critical, because when you're first starting out, you really don't have the self-confidence, which I think maybe you'll agree with me is a big piece of working in the luxury real estate space, is finding a way to develop confidence in your skill set, but also not really having resources to figure out how to do all of those left turns, 3 lefts equal a right, but there's so many left turns in our business. So tell me a little bit about what that was like in terms of just starting. You mentioned your mentor, do you have other mentors now, or what was that like when you first started
Well, the
seeing that
gentleman whose name
self-confidence?
is Duncan Donahue, he is now
Shout out to
retired,
Duncan.
and he was literally my work husband. And when I interviewed with him, I interviewed at all the top 10 broker, Gibson Sotheby's and KW and Coldwell Bank. Everyone I think wanted to hire me because they could see that I obviously had a certain rapport and knew how to carry myself and walk the walk and talk the talk. And that's a lot of it that, the woman I worked with in the first boutique firm said, fake it till you make it. And I always carry that with me as well. But he was able to impart on me a lot of why he was so successful in doing these $7 million deals. And he wouldn't partner with me at some of those, but those were his to do. But having authenticity, being transparent and playing nice in the sandbox with all of the agents, because as you know, it can be very contentious and there can be bad blood between certain agents for a myriad of reasons. And I tried to kind of play nice with everyone. And there were some heavy hitters in Boston that I really looked up to. 2 and 3 years later, I'm doing deals with them by myself. So those playing nice in the sandbox with everybody really goes a long way, because you never know when that agent will be on the other side of the table. So I hope I don't have any enemies in this industry. I pride myself on that. And having those relationships is integral to getting your business off the ground, because right now you can't wait for what's on MLS for your buyers. You need to be dialing for dollars and talking to your network and figuring out where are those off-market pocket listings to get those deals done, especially now more than ever, because it just feels super competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whole piece of off-market stuff has really changed our perception of what that looks like. And when you look at, we were just talking before we started, we were talking about some of those big real estate shows, $1 million listing and buying Beverly Hills, selling Sunset. And they're always talking about off-market listings. And they're always talking about listings that their office is going in to look at weeks before they go on the MLS. And
Right.
many of us have not been that familiar with working in that way, but now more than ever, being part of the network that enables you to at least be in touch with some of those off-market listings is what gives you an additional value add for today's buyer.
1000%. Absolutely. And buyers don't want to work with you unless you're dialed in on those things. I had a situation where a client of mine that I just picked up at an open house that I had 2 weeks ago, and he could tell, not that I'm patting my own back, but he could tell I know the market, I know the area. He really wants a pied a terre. He's an empty nester that still has to commute into the city. And this property came on, and my other thing, which is something we say in fashion all the time, is speed to market. Get your butt in that property the day it goes on. You cannot wait. So he was ready to do that. And the listing agent was kind of hemming and hawing and saying, oh, there's a tenant in place and we have to go with her schedule. And kind of the energy of seeing it the first day, and then 2 days later, he sees that they're having open houses. And he said, I don't want to even go forward with this property because I know it's going to go into a bidding war. And he's right. Sometimes you can make your clients do what you need them to do and they're ready to do it, but sometimes things don't go your way. And I can't blame the listing agent for wanting to have 3 open houses and getting all that exposure that you would get doing that. So these are things you can't control. But, it is incredibly important to be on your clients to move as quickly as possible, because if they don't, they'll learn the hard way. They're going to miss out.
Or at least let them know that's what you are strategically recommending at this time. I've got a referral that I just got this morning. They're coming this weekend. And it's been one of those situations where she put it on the market a couple of days ago, first showing Saturday, only
Yep.
showing Saturday and Sunday, offer deadline Monday at 5. And to impress upon this first time home buyer, what really needs to be done in advance that we need to have ready, ready to jump. And they can either go along with our recommendations or tell us to pound sand, but at least
Right.
we're being as strategic as possible, letting them know what it will take.
Right. Right. The opportunity's there. They either want to go for it, or if they wait, they realize they missed the boat.
And sometimes that needs to happen a few
Yep,
times. So let
it
me
does.
ask you a little bit outside of real estate, but maybe it's with real estate as well. What is a current definition for you of success?
Well, I'm still kind of recovering from that, Lisa. One of my dreams, my hopes and dreams when I looked at my life and look at my life is, what do you want? What's your why? And, I always wanted to get married and have a family. Well, that didn't happen. I'm not giving up on the get married and find my partner, my husband, but the children thing passed me by, and that's okay. I have nieces and nephews and I have dogs and things. You don't always get what you want. I'm one of these child-free and not by choice people.
Mm.
And sometimes people think, oh, you don't have children, didn't you want them? Of course I wanted them, but you can't always get what you want, or you can't afford always what you want. But one of the things I did want was a beach house on the Cape to retire in. And I had been watching the Cape real estate like a hawk because my parents live in Falmouth. So I knew Bourne, Mash Peak, Pocasset, every house that went on. I was watching that real estate piece as much as Boston. And a property came on last February and it had a $50,000 price reduction. And this house, oh my God. I mean, it had wall-to-wall red carpeting, okay, even on the
Love it.
stairs.
Sometimes they smell your equity and you
Oh
smell it.
yeah. Right, right. It was from
Good.
1976, and it literally was a 1976 house where nothing had changed. Wallpaper, all the things. But I saw that house, I saw the price reduction. I knew I could do that renovation. And the market for me was very slow last year. It's no secret that volume was down 30% nationwide. So that was my passion. And that was okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves. My younger sister moved in with me and helped me. And we single-handedly renovated that house. Of course, I hired electricians and plumbers and contractors, but we did a lot. And I use that now as experience when I'm with my home buyers who are in a condo with a child and need to move somewhere because they're bursting at the seams and looking at these single families in the suburbs. And I can now say, oh, let's talk about a flooded basement. Been there, done that. Let's talk about what the age of a heat pump looks like, or a roof, or a window that needs to be repaired. So what was a passion for me turned into invaluable experience. And I'm so happy I'm on the other side, because it was hell at times, but it was fun. We made it fun. But I really take that as like all things happen for a reason. And now that house is my investment property where I'm making, I don't want to tell you how much a week, but
I love it.
it's a 5 bedroom with a pool.
Wow. Wow. So I
So that
know
is
it's got a comma, at least one or
exactly,
two good
it's
commas in.
providing it's providing passive income for me and and then I get to retire there someday. So that was my passion, and it was really the year of 2023. And so now my next goal is to get out of debt from
From
all the
that. Yeah.
renovation, which I had to spend the money to make the house livable. But it all worked out. And my sister says all the time, let it all happen. And sometimes I want to, punch her in the face, but I do think that there's something to that. Just let it all happen and things will go your way.
I just love that because it is a current definition of success. Your whole demeanor and face completely lit up when you talked about, about where you are now with that property and maybe retiring down into that. And that is so often, especially here on the Cape, so often the profile of a client is they would like to have something to retire into eventually. But in the meantime, let's add some personal touches and then rent it out, follow all the rules, do what we need to do in order for it to be a proper investment property. But congratulations, because that is
Thank you.
amazing and awesome. And I think it also, as you say, gave you great, that was a catalyst for you to be able to now share that with other potential buyers who are scared to death, especially on the Cape. The Cape is
Right.
not an easy place to renovate. I live
No.
here and
No.
I was out of my home for 7 months, right? So I had to hire the top general contractors who literally wrote 30 points on everything on my invoice. So I was reminded for 7 months about the 30 points. But I knew, and to this day, if something has gone on, we just had them a month ago. I saw some little cracks in the grout in the kitchen. I was like, ah, and they came
Yeah.
over and redid it, get what you pay for, but it is a challenge in any neighborhood, but certainly here on the Cape. So you can tell people, hey, I did it and I
Right.
know it can be done. So let me
Right.
give you some pointers and some tips.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I think the hardest part of that, if I had to do it all over again, was finding the right contractors and helpers and aligning. You can't always get the plumber to show up with the electrician and the person who's putting in the granite counters at the same time. Of course, doing any work in the spring is never easy because everyone's always busy. It was hell. I'm not going to lie, but it was well worth it. And when I'm touring these homes with clients that need paint or wallpaper, I'm like, this is so
It's
easy.
nothing. Yeah.
Oh
Or
my
even a
God.
toilet. I mean, a toilet
Yes.
is like 179 at the most, I mean,
Yes, or a
that's
sump
so
pump. Got asked,
easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got asked about that last week. I'm like, you can get one at Home Depot between $200 and $500, or get a wetback at the very least. So
I
some
love
people have
that.
no clue about these things, and you just have to educate them. And the fact that I can literally say, been there, done that, it does give them some comfort that it's attainable.
Yeah.
So that was
And
my,
yeah, and no matter what, too, I think have curating that list of reliable contractors in any market becomes a huge value add as we're continuing to look at how we are articulating our value as buyer agents, because in that case, we would most likely be working with buyers. Having a curated list of contractors is invaluable. So I know you're going to keep all of those at
yes.
your fingertips for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I had a client, I helped her buy a property in Back Bay. And then she was looking for another investment property in Beacon Hill or Back Bay. And she sent a property to me in Falmouth, right by Old Silver Beach. And she said, what do you think of this? And I said, don't walk, run. I said, this is well priced and we need to move on this. So this is hilarious, Lisa. This is how crazy the Cape real estate is. So it came on a Sunday, broker owner. own the house. So a fellow real estate who was actually out of Lexington. So I think there was some simpatico there because we were both quote unquote Boston realtors. He was upgrading to a better home in East Falmouth. And I said, look, they're going to have open houses. And I made him promise that they weren't going to take any offers early. He said, no, 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 we're going to go through the week and take the offers. Sorry, someone's calling me. Let me just turn that off. So I said, let's do a FaceTime showing on Monday because it came on a Sunday. So Monday we're there. And while we were there at 1 o'clock, we had to go through showing time. There were 4 other parties in a 15-minute increment on a Monday. And I said to her, this is going to be a bloodbath. You're going to have to waive everything and come up way higher. If you want this, that's what needs to happen. Well, the next day he called me at 11 o'clock. This was Tuesday. He said, I'm getting an offer. I said, okay. He said, I just wanted to give you the professional courtesy. If you want to put your offer in, you can do so since you've seen the house, quote unquote, with your client. So we put an offer in. And she listened to me. She did everything I told her she needed to do to get it. And he called me that night. He said, okay, the numbers are good, the terms are good, but your client hasn't seen the property. And if you can if you have the P&S, purchase and sale by Friday, it's yours if she can see it tonight. So she got in her car and she went down there and she looked at it and we got it. And she's like, I don't know, you're a miracle worker. I said, no, I'm not a miracle worker. You just listen to me. And if my clients listen to me and do what I tell them to do, usually the result is great. So it was wonderful that I was in Falmouth. I was able to coach her on a great property. And now she has an investment property of her own. So that was a really nice kind of segue from buying a property and then being able to help my clients buy an investment property literally 3 miles from my own.
And I love the way that you mentioned the throughout that kind of speed to market
Yeah.
idea, which I know you continued from your career in fashion all the way through. And also something else, my last guest also had gotten laid off from a corporate job
Mm-hmm.
and kind of struggled for a little while because when you're laid off from a corporate job, you're used to making a very nice salary. And then welcome to the world of entrepreneurship,
Oh my
where
God.
where you're
Yeah.
only as good as your last closing, unless and until you're able to build a pipeline for yourself.
Right. And
You
I was new to
typically are.
Boston, so
Yeah.
I didn't have like this huge, I had a New York, but I had some friends, but it was really just kind of figure it out. And to be honest, Lisa, I'm really happy that all of that transpired when it did, because imagine getting laid off during COVID at that salary and then trying to find a job. And fashion is less brick and mortar, everything's digital, everything's online. I have very few friends now. I got into this in the mid 90s, so very few friends who are even still in the industry. And a lot of them had to pivot into something else. And I cannot imagine trying to start a job in real estate during the pandemic. It wouldn't have happened. And I wouldn't have the house that I have on the Cape now. And I wouldn't be my own boss and be able to do things the way I want because I have a lot. I'm 50, turned 50 this year. Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm not afraid to tell people how old I am. A lot of my friends who are in these corporate jobs, I'm like, God, are you going to do this for another 20 years? Like get up and sit at a desk at 8:30 every morning until
Get a
7 p.m.?
job.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that was just somewhat fortuitous that everything happened the way it did. So I'm a better person because of it, or at least my schedule is.
And you've shown an enormous amount of resilience. Well, we're just wrapping up with today's episode. You have been an absolute thrill to meet and to share with. I continue to hope that our paths will cross. And
Yeah,
let me
let's
just
do some
ask you,
business
yes,
together.
we'll definitely back and forth. And I'd love to, we can meet for lunch. I live in Mashpee, so we can, next time you're down here, we can get together for a cup of coffee or some lunch.
I would
Let me
love that.
ask you to leave us all with, I know that you had a number of kind of quotes, inspirational quotes that you love to hold on to. And give us one that we can kind of take our session out with today. And I'd love to just to hear that from you.
So one thing my mother always says is don't let perfection be the enemy of good,
Mm.
which basically means you're never going to find that perfect house, and people have this list, and there's always going to be trade-offs, but you need to figure out what's important to you and important to your clients and what's a non-negotiable, and then you'll learn to live with the rest. And that will kind of, if you set the stage with that, people are going to say, okay, I really need to be in a house with an in-law suite, and if they don't have that, then I'm not going to be in that house. Or I really need to be within walking distance to a restaurant so I don't feel like I'm leaving the city, things like that. So that's something I say all the time to my clients, and it
And I
kind of.
think that's amazing advice for life in general. If we're always waiting for the perfect time to do something or the perfect
Right.
partner or the perfect restaurant or the perfect outfit or the perfect whatever it is,
The
we
perfect
miss it.
weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Please. We miss out on, but you know what? Also, it prevents us from accepting and appreciating and being grateful for the
Right.
moments and everything that we have. So on that note of gratitude, I will say thank you so much for joining me today. You have an amazing career. I can't wait to hear more about it. I can't wait to you got to send me some pictures of your reno. That
Oh
would be a
yeah,
great image.
absolutely.
Sure. Hopefully you took some, you documented the process all through. That sounds very,
It's on Instagram. I have an
oh,
Instagram
nice.
handle too. One is MBK Real Estate underscore MBK underscore Real Estate, and I named my house Perry Maison after the
That's
show,
funny.
but it's
Oh my
on
God.
Perry Road. So I have an Instagram for that, and I have so much content that I was literally jackhammering to put a boulder to put a driveway in. Not kidding. So there's some funny content that my sister and I need to focus on that a little bit more because that was quite a journey. But yeah, and it's still a few weeks on Airbnb if anyone's looking for a house with a pool near the
All right.
beach
And we'll
on the
have all
Cape.
that in our show notes for sure. I'll make sure that all that information is in our show notes, and you
Okay,
really
great.
have demonstrated amazing resilience throughout all of that. So, again, thank you so much, Mary Beth. And I'm look
Thank you,
forward to the next
Lisa.
time our paths cross.
All right, likewise. Take care. See ya.
Thank you so much for joining us today on another amazing episode of Lifting Others as We Rise. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Mary Beth Kelley. We stayed on afterwards for quite a while, connecting and talking about things that were continuing to inspire us in this market. I hope you will calendar some time to consider and kind of follow through what you have looked at as some challenges, things that have happened in your life, perhaps a layoff or some kind of a difficult a situation that you've faced and how that will act as a catalyst for change for you. If you enjoyed today's insights, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback really matters. Until the next episode, keep that positivity flowing. And remember, when we make an effort to lift others up with intention, we all rise together. This is Lisa Parenteau signing off now from Lifting Others as We Rise. Take good care.